Good afternoon, all of you. Hello, am I audible? Very good afternoon, everybody. Today is last day of our faculty development program. So I welcome all the participants on behalf of our institute, Dr. Bapuji Sawangi College of Engineering and Technology. So is today's session leader. I just introduced him shortly. Mr. Bhagwan Bhosle, sir. He's B from JJ Magdum. He's B. He's completed his bachelor degree from JJ Magdum College, Jaisingpur, and his post-graduation from Symbiosis Institute of Management. Currently working as the Deputy General Manager, as lead operational safety and sustainability, lean and operation excellence in Tata Motors. Welcome, sir. I warmly welcome behalf of our institute, Dr. Bapuji Sawanke, Institute of Engineering and Technology. And I request to you, please start your session, sir.
So, am I audible now to all of you?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So, shall we start?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Just hold on. Yeah. So maybe after some time I will be closing my video because I'm currently some distance away from my plant, and maybe the bandwidth will not allow me to continue the video. But it is okay now if I'm not working on the video. Hello, am I audible? Oh, so let us start this session today, and a very warm welcome to all of you for this particular session, where we will be discussing about electric mobility landscape and the various technologies and the way ahead in the electric mobility. So I guess this particular session and series of the lectures that you had in your company, in your premises, that is College of Engineering, and many of the technical aspects of the EV, it seems those have been covered. So I will not go into the depth of the electric vehicle mobility as such. Into the technical part of it. Of course, it is a very long subject, and the 2 hours won't suffice for the day. But we'll just go through the what are the need for the EVs, what are the various technologies. Little bit we'll roam around on the hybrid vehicles. What government is doing to push this electric mobility? What are the future trends in terms of the battery development, as well as the some of the advancement that has happened recently in the electric vehicles. So, so my slide got switched over, no? Okay, because sorry for this intermediate this thing, because we are usually going doing our all the sessions and all our meetings on the Microsoft team. So I am particularly very new to this format. So yes, going ahead towards the electrical vehicle. So few of you might be seeing these electric vehicles in a recent trend. There is a buzz around the electric vehicles. Every other Tom, Dick, and Harry is talking about the electric vehicles, how electric vehicles is evolving. But it is not that electric vehicles are here recently. It has got a very long journey, long past. The history goes as as early as 1830, where the early pioneers of the electric mobility had been there, and it got flourished rather in the year 80 to year 1914, where which we can as a the transition to the motorized transport. So you can see in the picture, this picture is almost 100 years odd picture where the electrical trucks are being charged. So earlier those mode of the transport were there, and by going by the year 1900, so there were primarily three modes of transport, I would say, that were at that time very much into the market. So if you consider the year 1900, somewhere around 1900, there were 40% of the automobiles which were powered by steam. So you must be aware currently, many of you must be aware of the industry 4.0, which talks about all the industrial revolutions that has happened till now. So industry 1 talks about the development of a steam engine and the related industrialization that took jump on that particular area. So almost 40% of this automobiles were powered by the steam and 38% by the electricity. So that much was the volume of the electric vehicles in the year 1900, and somewhere around in 1904, 1905, and there were hardly the 22% of the vehicles that were from the gasoline. But this was termed as the very golden period of the electric vehicles, because the steam engine, it has, maybe in the next video we will see the disadvantage and advantage of the particular mode of the mobility. So steam engine, basically you have to steam it out, you have to boil the water, then the once the consumption of the boiled steam gets exhausted, then you have to stop again boil. So it had its disadvantage. Similarly, on the other side, the gasoline engine, which we currently talk about, which we say the ICE engine or the internal combustion engine, at that time was a very non-efficient engine. It was hardly a 2 to 3% of efficiency, and it was very dirty engine. It was giving a lot of smoke in the atmosphere, and it was at that time was not considered to be the great mobility solution. But electric mobility, because electricity has just came in the, at least in the urban areas, the again the rate of this electricity at that time, although it was very on a higher side, it was very non-polluting vehicle. So that was, in that era, it was termed as that now this particular electric mobility will take off like anything. So in that year, in 1940, it was said that almost there were 40,000 electric vehicles which were roaming around the streets of the United States. But that was the golden period, I would say. But that what we usually say is the demise of that electric vehicle started happening. There are primarily the two reasons. One is the affordability, which was taken care of by Ford. So in the early 1900 time, the cost of the electric vehicle and the cost of the ICE engine vehicles were very much comparable. But the development by Mr. Ford in 1908, where he had mass produced the Model T of the Ford, and that has revolutionized and changed the entire game. So the prices of the ICE engine cars dropped very severely now, because you can produce those cars on a mass production conveyorized lines and on a very large scale, and it dropped the price almost to the half of the electric vehicles. So affordability was one thing. Secondly, as the ICE engine got progressed, the basic fuel for the ICE engine was the petrol, diesel, that is the crude oil, and by the grace of God, we would say, there were many refineries that were found in the Canada, in USSR, that is Russia, and a major chunk in the Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Kuwait. And so bunch of the energy, the raw energy, I would say, was started getting available at very low price. On a contrast, the electricity at that time was very luxurious item. It was not given to the very rural areas, because the electricity generation itself was very narrowly based. It was basically based on the hydro projects and some steam based projects. So the electricity, that much the availability of electricity was again a concern. And as the world moved on, the IC engines which we currently saw, that is almost a 100 years old legacy of the IC engines. And over a period of time, this IC engine's efficiency, its smoke throwing capabilities have come drastically down, thanks to the lot of innovations during this time, be it a turbocharger, be it a supercharger, be it the exhaust system, be it a catalytic converter. All these innovation had helped the ICE engines to take off, and up till now, the ICE engine has ruled the world. And in between, of course, there were some sort of I would say the glitches or some sort of triggers for electric vehicles to again to take a shape. That was in the maybe in the year 1972 73, where it is called as the oil shock year, when there were some international conflict that was going on between America and the OPEC countries, that is the all these Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and that time America felt that it is very bad move to entirely dependent for the energy to somebody. So if we go by the history of American wars, be it a war in the Kuwait, be it a war in the Iraq, it is the energy, that is the capturing of all those oil reserves was the main intention of America, who wanted always to be the superpower. So even the in a current scenario, the energy plays a very vital role in the economic growth of your nation. So that is the reason the USA, USSR, and maybe in a current scenario, the China, which knew that if they want to rule the world, they have to be energy sufficient. For example, the which we will come into the latter part of this topic, the energy bill itself for the countries like India. For example, India in year 2022 purchased $120 billion of the oil, which is a huge amount. It is almost 6 to 7% of our GDP. And any nation relying on the outside fuel or outside energy for its own growth is not a sustainable solution. So that was the time in 1973. It was a year when again there were thoughts of electric vehicles. It moved to some level, but then again it vanished. And again in the year 1990, because of the climate change concerns, the California government had put some rules into the place, so that it is a mandatory or it is a regulatory requirement for the companies to abide by the fuel norms. But it was coming, going. For example, General Motors had its entry in electric vehicles, but it is like a come go situation, and it was really never picked. But in year 2008, when actually the EV got the real name or the real flash, was year 2008, when the our favorite Elon Musk entered into this race. By in year 2008, he formed the company called Tesla, and from that moment onwards, there is no looking back. And then again, there are certain climate change agreements that had happened. It is sustainable goals and all these things that had happened had led to all these things. That is the what we call as the oblivion, or the electric vehicle again recharged. Again, they become the main source of discussion. They are being seen as the mainstream mobility solution for the future generation. This is a small video that is what I talked about. It is about how the entire transition of mobility happened from the steam-based powertrain towards the electric vehicles trend. So this is the steam engine, which was earlier the highest mode of transport, but it maybe take example 1870 to 1900. But it had its disadvantages, because you have to take a steam, get the steam, and it is a very consuming process. This is the second example where IC engine, one drawback, that it had to hand crank. So another third reason that why IC engines got immediately a very big boost during 1910 is because this auto cranking has started. Whatever the button cranking that we found, we are finding. So at that time, it was very difficult for the drivers, specifically to the women drivers, to hand crank the engine and then start. But this evolution has helped us, helped a lot. So in early 1900, there were three modes. So it was a steam, it was then ice engine, and electric vehicle. So I will cut short this video because there is a lot of content. But the moral of the story is, these were the three mode of the transport, and ice engine took over, and now there was a need for something else. So what was that need that people wanted to talk about the electric vehicles? So the EV revival drivers, I would say. So first and foremost reason that currently is about climate change, and these days every other fellow, not only in the outside world, but in the organizations, in the corporates like us, they are talking about in terms of the climate change, GHG emissions, greenhouse gas emissions. For example, we have you must be aware of the United Nations sustainable goals. There are 17 sustainable goals, and one of the goal is the climate action. So as a, for example, as a Tata Motors, we are abide by the international treaties, and reports we have to publish what are our environmental actions that are into the practice. So first is the first reason and foremost reason is the global warming. The global warming, the term, you all must be aware of it. I will not take much time on that. It is the basically the as per the very scientific data, it is being observed that our Earth, Mother Earth, is warming at a very alarming rate. And this particular graph you are seeing is the almost 2000 years graph has been plotted, and you can see at the end of the graph there is a sudden spike, and this sudden spike is because of the industrialization. When industrialization started, maybe up till 8050, you can see that there are up and down as per the regular carbon cycle, but the carbon cycle got disturbed since year 8070, I would say. From 8070 onwards, the industrialization started, and there is a good amount of carbon dioxide that has been pumped into the atmosphere. And what was that good amount, I would say, is almost, when you consider the pre-industrial area, arena, then the CO2 was hardly almost around somewhere around 220 parts ppm, what we call as the parts per million in the atmosphere. But post this industrialization, a lot of CO2 emissions had happened. There were industries, there were transportation, there were cement industry, construction industries, steel industries, all emitted a lot of carbon dioxide, and that percentage has rose up to 47 percentage. And currently, if I date as of now, it is almost 412 parts per million. That is the figure of 2022. That this much of carbon dioxide currently in the atmosphere. And what was the effect of this atmosphere? So you all know that there is a greenhouse gases surrounding our atmosphere. The function of these greenhouse gases is to absorb and reflect the heat from the earth surface as well as from the greenhouse gases surface, so that we have a very optimum temperature on the earth, where there can be a ecosystem can be established and biodiversity can be maintained. But in recent years, that is the last one, post industrialization, this temperature has started rising. And by the scientific data, it says that if this temperature goes beyond the average earth surface temperature, if it goes beyond 2 degrees Celsius with reference to the pre-industrial temperature, then there will be very devastating natural effects on the entire world. And few of the effects we have already seen in India, particularly, like there are intermittent floods are coming. There are scorching heats in some areas. The areas like Amazon, or you can say in the California, you can find a lot of wildfires are happening. And one earlier also it used to happen, but the frequency of those wildfires, for example, earlier if one wildfire would happen once in a 10 years, now it is happening at least 2-3 times in a year. So this tendency is increasing, and if this things is not controlled, then there is a very great chance that there will be a lot of catastrophic effects on the uh, Mother Earth. So it is rising temperatures, then sea level is rising. So some areas, last week only I was just seeing that Sony BBC Earth channel, where they were showing the level of ice melting in the Arctic region, where the ice is melting it at a very alarming rate. Now, what the effects of this ice melting? Because this ice melting is rising the sea level in many areas, and it is getting a lot of alarming situation to the countries which are on the coast. For example, and those are all poor countries. For example, the most affected countries in recent time, this sea level will rise, is the nations like Bangladesh, which is covered by the coastal. These are the poor countries, and they don't have any such a massive funds for the climate change mitigation. So this is the case. So again, for example, the countries where maybe in the last 2 years back I had visited this Indonesia, Jakarta. Now this countries like, as I said, am I audible? There was some disturbance. Okay. So, like a country, I would say, was there in the Jakarta, and for which is also a very coastal country, and they already have started facing the sea level changes. So there are many, like my hotel was just beside the sea level, and there are few areas which have already started submerging into the sea. And believe me, they have started shifting the Jakarta. Jakarta, by the way, is very, very wonderful city. I had been there for some 6-7 days, and it is a wonderful city. But because the climate change risk is such a high, they are shifting the entire capital of that nation, Indonesia, which is again a very developing economy. They are developing like India. Their GDP rate is somewhere around 6-7, and it's a good economy nation. They are shifting their entire capital away to somewhere 600 kilometers. That is what the information they had given to us, that they are shifting their capital. So this is the grave consequences out of this climate change. Then ocean acidification is happening. A lot of acidification, and which has impact on the ocean life. So there are many biodiversity. Many biodiversities are getting lost in these oceans. So the earlier types of the fishes, the type of aquatic life that is being in danger. Then there are the changes in the ecosystem. So there is a scientific data that millions of the species have got extinguished from this earth since last 100 years. There are the species which are not there, and this number is not in very small quantities, millions. And that is why the companies like us, Tata Motors, also involving themselves in the big biodiversity projects, where we are ensuring that we are taking the land, and even the land which we are occupying, where our factories are there. We have identified certain zones where we are taking care of the flowers, fauna and flowers, so that this biodiversity can be taken back. So we are selecting some different types of the trees, what we call the desi trees. So desi trees are being planted in some areas, so that all the aquatic life, all the plant life can again rejuvenate, and the biodiversity can be established. So the climate change has not only affected us, it is only the we have seen the growth part of it, not the sustainable growth. So the growth happens, it will happen, but if the next generations have to take care, then this growth should happen in a sustainable manner. What is the sustainable manner? That whatever been given by nature to us, it has to be handed over to the next generation without any this thing. We are guests on this mother earth. So climate change is again a very big topic of discussion. So that is about the ocean and sea level rise. Another is the air quality, which you are seeing, and for the country like us, which is populating like anything, we are the highest population now. So many vehicles are coming. Like in India, for example, in Tata Motors, we are producing almost on a month basis 50,000 vehicles. The Hyundai is producing another 60,000. Mahindra is picking up another 60,000. Maruti is producing almost 1,50,000. So almost 4 to 5 lakhs vehicles are getting new vehicles are getting sold in the market, and which is creating the pollution in a big way. And being a poor country, we still don't have that high legislations with respect to compliance. So in between maybe the 2 3 months back, IEA report, that India International Energy Association report, says that almost out of top 20 polluting cities, India have the prestige of, I would say, it is a very sarcastic comment, but we have the prestige of having almost 16 top cities which are highly polluted in the entire world, which are like cities like Delhi, in between the news of the Delhi getting polluted, what even thing, and all those things. So it is a really grave concern that people are dying out of the lung cancer. Many unanticipated diseases are happening because people are exposed to the nitrous oxide, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, and these lungs. There is, again, as I said, there is a lot of theory evolving around it, how the lungs get the fibrosis kind of thing, where the poisonous gases, toxic gases like this enter into their lungs, then the trachea and all those system gets affected. And there are multiple cases which are attributed purely to the air pollution in Delhi itself, and some numbers, figurative numbers, have been given that almost some 60 70,000 people have died because of the diseases pertaining to the pollution. So that much harm that this nature is creating. So this is the countries that are flood at risk. So the areas which are seen in the blue, they show that they are the countries in the risk. Even the country in the even the cities like Mumbai, there it is also at the risk. So based on the temperature rise, number of population rise, and usually this climate change has the severe damage on the poor people. आपण म्हणतो ना की जनरली गरीब लोकच याच्यात हताहत होतात. तर क्लायमेट चेंज मध्ये सुद्धा गरीब लोक, बिकॉज दे डोंट हॅव द मिटिगेशन available with them in terms of the money. So if the scorching heat is there, the rich will go in the AC and they will mitigate that. But what about the poor? There are the examples of the heat stroke, recent heat stroke. You might be hearing this on the news channel. The heat strokes, only the people who are not having the facilities to get themselves AC, fan, they are getting died. So usually in this entire scenario, the people who are poor and can't afford, the countries who can't afford, like the Sahara African countries, they can't afford the luxury of having. There are as of now there are almost 1.5 billion people on the world who don't have the reach of the electricity. They don't have the electricity. Forget about other basic necessities. So this is challenging to get this. So this is basically about impact. I will not run this video because it is depicting the same. Now, what to do about this impact? Shall we remain very silent about this impact? Is some question that had come in the minds of the world leaders. So the answer to this is yes. It is, we cannot, because it is duty of all of us as a world leaders that the development and growth should happen in a very sustainable panel. So there is an intergovernmental panel on climate change, IPCC, and this intergovernmental panel on climate change devises the strategies around the climate change and what we should be doing on the climate change. So climate change, this panel particularly had given a very strong scientific data to the United Nations and said that this is not a flash, or even sometimes even now some people feel that it is a flash. It is climate change is not a real thing. For example, take an example of our last president of United States, Mr. Donald Trump. He had came out of the Paris Agreement. He's not believing that the climate change is there. because they have their separate capitalist agenda. And so that was the case. But IPCC, through scientific methods, they shown that yes, the climate change is not something very unreal, it is real, and we need to do something about it. And so there were many treaties were there right from the 92. So there was a Kyoto Treaty, there was another one country's name that the treaty was there. But the real this thing real fruitful treaty, I would say, is the Paris Agreement, which was the usually United Nations meet on this. IPCC meets every year. So in year 2015, it was the Paris Agreement which declared, or which anonymously, which was signed by almost 191 nations, almost all the nations on the world. And they had decided two things: that we have to limit the average Earth surface temperature below 2 degrees Celsius, and preferably below 1.5, म्हणजे 2 डिग्री करायला पाहिजे. आणि पण चांगलं झालं तर it should be 1.5 degree we should limit, so that the catastrophic effects of this climate change can be mitigated, and we can hand over this earth to next generation in a good way. Then second, it was decided that enhancement of the resilience and adaptation to climate change. So this is again a separate part. Now the climate change has happened already, so there we must be ready with the resilience and adoption of this climate change goals. But main focus is to limit the temperature below 1.5 degree Celsius. But now this treaty had been there since 2015, and many of the nations had signed, and they have their own SDGs. They have their own goals. Every nation has got their own goals, and they are tracking those goals. But whether the picture is good and really good progress is being done, yes, in some areas the progress is being done in terms of the renewable energy. Progress is massive. The countries like China, India, USSR, Australia, they are pumping renewable energy like anything. So for example, we as India has got the target of 500 gigawatt our energy from the solar by year 2030. And as of now, maybe in the 2022, 23, 23, 24, we are almost nearing to the 200 gigawatt. So good progress is being made, but it is not enough. It is far below the target that have been set. So it is likely that even with current scenario, even if we are going business as usual, there are usually 2-3 scenarios are being worked out. Business as usual, म्हणजे काही न करता आता जसं चाललंय तसं चालू दिलं तर by 2030 we will be the target of 1.5 will never be reached, because as of now we are at 1.1. 1.1 is the temperature already we are at, and the way industrialization is happening. So for example, the countries like India, like China, the industrialization happening like anything. There are the countries like African countries who don't have the resources for the renewable energy. So it is likely that we will not be attaining this target, and really some massive actions are required to be taken in this regard. So this is with respect to that, we need to take these actions. Now, what are these actions are supposed to be? So these sustainable develop. So before, maybe I have not included in this slide, but there are 17 sustainability development goals. What is the growth and sustainable growth? Growth is something you just try to accumulate. You mine materials from the earth. You take away oil from the earth, ocean. Develop yourself, irrespective of what impacts of it has made on the environment. But everybody has agreed that this kind of development won't be a good development in the near future, and we have to really stop all these things and take a nature with us, so that the development can be sustainable. But how? So these are the primary levers that have been identified. So zero carbon primary energy sources. So zero carbon primary energy sources. This means that currently the energy sources are majoritarily they are basically the coal powered plants, There are hydro plants, which is a renewable. There are solar. There is wind. There is a nuclear. There is a geothermal. So all these are the modes of the energy generators. But as of now, if we consider the energy matrix for the world, there are almost currently 70%, 60 to 70%. Of course, it has come down in the recent years, but almost 60 to 7% of the world's energy is being produced by the coal. For the country like India, it is still we are India, China, we are coal producing economy. So it is called as fossil fuel based economy. So we are emitting carbon dioxide like anything. So now to sustain have the sustainability movement, first thing we have to do is the zero carbon primary energy sources that convert all your fossil fuel based economy to the renewable based economy. So that is the first target. Now second is the electrification of the energy users. So the electrification should happen for all the energy users. So one maybe the major is the transportation sector, which gives away almost 18% of the CO2 emissions. Then another is the heaters, which primarily these are used in the cold countries, European countries, where they use this natural gas and all these things for the heating purpose. So these needs to be converted into electricity. And again, parallelly, as the first portion means the electricity sources, it should be the renewable one. Then energy efficiency is one thing. CCS is another thing. So CCS is something is a carbon capturing system. Now, just a little bit bifurcating on this topic. That this recently. Till now so much of tons of CO2 has been emitted into the atmosphere, and currently this mechanism. So maybe in a few of you, if you are updating yourself, then recently maybe the last year this Kejriwal government has put not a CCS, it is a open air carbon capture. This what it does is it captures the carbon, compresses it, and puts way below inside the earth crust. So that may be the part of next discussion. So this talks about कि आपने तो छोड़ा है, now gone is gone, but now at least make some efforts because आप जो यहाँ से emit कर रहे हो ना, जो it is not going to stop within a seconds, within the next few years, but find some mechanism so that you can take back the carbon dioxide. So there are methods to take carbon dioxide. One method is have a tree plantation. So for example, if you consider the one tree, absorbs the carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide absorption should be taken into consideration. This CCS is to be considered. Second is circular economy, which is about RRR, so recycle, refurbish, and renew. So all these talks about the circularity in your this thing and natural ecosystem. These are the 6 levers. If you really go into the deep of it, each topic will take hour or so. But we are currently not, this time is not permitting. So it was decided that we have to limit our carbon dioxide, but it is not going to happen in a day or two. So the concept of net zero has come. So what is net zero? Net zero is that anyway the emissions you cannot make zero, because you have to do industrialization, you have to do the agriculture, you have to do this thing, and it will take time to go to the all those 5-6 levers that converting all the fossil economy into the renewable. It will take time. But then sir, then another concept had come, let us do a net zero. So what is this net zero? The net zero is whatever emissions you are currently throwing into the atmosphere, why can't we take out the same number of emissions, same quantity of emissions back by some various mitigation methods like tree plantation, forestation, CCS I talked about, carbon capture, and many other means, so that the net effect is zero. This is one scenario. And this is the nationwide picture for you, that many of the countries have already started working towards it, and many of have already been net zero. The country like Bhutan is already net zero because they don't have the industries, and they have the very big forest cover which absorbs the carbon dioxide. In fact, they are not a net zero; they are net positive country. Country like Bhutan, country like Norway, they became net positive in the year 2024 only, 23, 24. The target they had taken was a 25. The countries like US, they are saying we will be net zero by 2050, and it was when it was pressurized to us that let your countries, let the India and China be the net zero by 2050. Thanks to our government, and this was actually the very wrongful approach, I would say, of the European countries and America, that they wanted to follow the suit on their this thing. So China uprightly declined, and they said China uprightly declined, and they said we will be net zero by 2060. India went ahead and they said we will not be net zero by 2050, 2060. We will be net zero by 2070. 2070 मध्ये आपण net zero Modi had given commitment. And why the reason for that? Now, because these European nations and all these American countries, they have already developed themselves, and current emissions, this is called as, there are the two scenarios. For example, if you take the emissions top country emitting countries, currently there are current scenario. Now if you, there are बऱ्याचशा गोष्टी अशा मागे असतात ना पडद्याआड, तसं आहे की आता सध्या कुठल्या कंट्रीज आहेत, तर there are certain सध्या countries आहेत, there is China is leading because China is industrial, there is a lot of manufacturing industries that are going there. Then second is the USA, and the third is India. These are the current highly polluters, but this will not show us the good picture or real picture. If you go by the history of the pollutions, then the story says altogether different. Story says that European countries where the industrialization actually started, the USA where industrialization boomed, USSR, these are the countries where they have the historical pollution. And now these countries are teaching us that now you stop the pollution and be a net zero by 2050, which is injustifiable. So that is the reason our government is saying, Bhaiya, you had done your growth, because without energy you don't have the growth. Now, if a country like India says, yes, we want, we will be net zero 2050, but where did the energy for all these things will come? To grow, you need energy. You need a lot of fuel to function your industries, function your service sectors. So India, China has nothing doing. You have done your development. Now it's our time. We have recently adapted. For example, India adapted in, I think, in the year 1992. Few of the people here sitting must be aware. In the 1992, we opened our economy, and from that onwards only we started growing. Now it is a high pace of growing. The India is considered to be the growing economy. The highest GDP is coming from the India, not even China, not even USSR. Last year, a couple of years post-COVID, we are the highest economy, and it is the Goldman Sachs prediction that in near future also will remain the highest economy. So to have this economy, we'll have to have just hold on. We'll have to have energy, and that is the reason this thing that we are net zero by 2070. So this is all about net zero. So here I'm again not going deep into the this thing. So this is what the future energy transition that we should look like. So currently, if you 2005 to 15 का अगर हम लोग data लेते हैं, so it is like a fossil based economy है, where there is almost 28% worldwide. Worldwide it is 28%. For India it is almost 60%, 50 to 60% coal based economy. So oil based 29. But going ahead 2050, see the scenario on the right hand side, that almost 69% of the world energy will be a solar energy. And few of the countries, specifically the European countries, our country, China's countries, we are not that sensitive towards the climate change. But the countries like Europe, they are very sensitive, and they are following this track on a very large scale. So whoever from you are aware of the recent news, the last week, the United Kingdom shut off their last coal plant. So this is very good news that there are the countries which are following on the climate change targets. So as of now, the US, United Kingdom don't have any coal power plant. Similarly, they are mitigating to the other renewable sources because they also don't want to depend on the natural gas for the heating from the USSR. So currently there are many geographical tensions that are going on between USSR and Ukraine. And USSR, Russia is saying will not give the gas, so entire economy is in jeopardize. So that is the UK is now going very full throttle for the renewable energy, and there is a very good picture of solar and wind energy specifically that is getting developed in the European countries. China is at the forefront because China is the country where they manufacture the solar panels. They have the monopoly of solar panels, and they are producing the solar panels on such a large scale that the costs are very effective. So this is the this thing, as I said, it is a very big topics where we can have some discussion on the on some other day. But this is a small picture that energy requirement itself is a very unequal. For example, the person in the America, he spends almost 250 watts in entirety, and not only the your household energy. If he's traveling, if he's roaming around, if he's going on a business, he spends almost 250 because their cars convert into the KWH. If they're if you see the American cars, they are high engine capacity cars, so their consumption is almost 250 kilowatt hour per day, whereas country average world average is 65 kilowatt per day. And the countries like sub-Saharan countries which don't have any real access, they are poor, they hardly spend somewhere around 12 units per day for their entire energy requirement. So this is again access kahan pe hai. I will not go into deep into it. So these are the sustainable goals, and those the first is all about climate change. It's all about net zero. To get into that climate change and net zero mode, we have to transit to the electric vehicles. Now it is not the this thing. Now it is the compulsion. Now world has to convert all their transportive modes and convert their fossil based economy to the green economy or renewable energy. The second most important reason for the country like India and China running behind, specifically the China, because China हम भी बात करते हैं, for example India will be super power. अरे भाई पण how to be super power you need to have your control on the energy. Now the China knew it very well, and they are very aggressive. China knew that the currently we don't have the crude oil with us. It has already been in the OPEC countries, and the OPEC countries crude oil is being controlled by United States. So we can't be self-reliant. ज्याला आपण आत्मनिर्भर म्हणूया. We can't be reliant, and without self-reliance, you cannot be a superpower. So that is the reason China very aggressively. I am not currently not able to get that exact figure, but they have spent billions and billions, trillions of dollars on the electric vehicles, and currently China is leading the electric vehicle like anything. They are exporting electric vehicles. Now their share of the electric vehicles has almost reached to the 20%. Another 50% they are by year 2030 they are planning to have almost 70% of their vehicles. Consider the amount. For example, in India we are selling 4 lakhs, 5 lakhs. In China it must be somewhere around 15 lakhs. So they, in a month almost 10 lakh cars will be of the EVs. Currently, last year for example, they have sold almost I have the 2022-23 figure in front of my mind. It was 7 billion. So अगर 10 million entire world में बिका गया, तो almost 6 million only in the China. So they have taken aggression. Now why they are into the aggression? Because they know they don't have the ICE engine capability with them. And to become a world leader, you need to have your own energy sources. You need to have the control on the automobile industry, and that is why they have aggressively moved into the electric vehicle. So for example, here you can say that the energy bill for the country like India China, United States. The China, for India, I already told. This is figure of, I think it is 2022. India purchased $102 billion. म्हणजे बिलियन करान गुणिले त्याला सध्याचा रेट लावा एवढे डॉलर वी स्पेंड ओनली फॉर द क्रूड ऑयल. सिमिलरली चाइना ऑलमोस्ट डबल, चाइना तो अपने से भी ज्यादा बिल है उनका. So these countries want that their import, and there is a one term you must be aware, there is a trade deficit. म्हणजे आपण किती इम्पोर्ट करतो आणि किती एक्सपोर्ट करतो याच्यावरून त्या कंट्रीची ट्रेड डेफिसिट ठरते. वी हॅव मॅसिव्ह ट्रेड डेफिसिट बिकॉज ऑफ, अँड मोस्ट पोर्शन ऑफ इट इज बीन into the oil import. So these are the primarily two reasons. One is the climate change we talked about in a good way, and it is the second is the this thing, oil reliance or self-reliance on the oil. Now we will move to a little bit technical part of it. I think earlier it was a need was discussed. Now it will be technical part. I think we'll cover it in very short man, because this is very basic level. It shows what is the difference between conventional powertrains and your ICE conventional and electric vehicles. Basically these are categorized by the how your mode of storage and what is the motorization. So in case of ICE engine, it is the petrol tank is the energy storage, and in case of the battery vehicle, it is the battery which replaces the tank. And in case of your motor, in the case of ICE engine, the motor is basically the engine, the diesel engine, petrol engine, engine. Now CNG has come into picture. And in case of the ICE engine, these are the motors, electric motors, and it has different motors. There is a different working mechanism, how the motor works, how the magnetic field develops, Ohm's law, and all this. I'm not going to discuss all these things and technically over here. But for the better understanding, this is only that it is the power source like DC battery, which is in the voltage range of, like for example, in the Tata Nexon we have 320. When we launched Tata Nexon EV, it was a 320 voltage architecture. So there are higher architecture also, 400, 450, 800. 800 is for the commercial vehicles. But there is a battery, and from that battery DC power comes to the power electronics components. So power electronics basically, whether it is there. So power electronics, this is just explaining the working of it. Power electronics components are something which converts the DC to AC, AC to DC. So from the DC source, it goes into the power electronics component, and from power electronics inverter, the DC gets converted to the AC, and the motor gets that supply. So this is a simple mechanism, and it is very simplified. So one of my second aspect or second learning training or whatever you say is about how the impact, how full this EV transition will be on the current players. So there is another 30 odd PPT slides where each and every component is being analyzed, and to say that almost, if you consider the ICE engine, we have 2000 odd components, but which are taken care of by merely 20 or 30 components in the electric vehicle. In ICE engine, you have crankshaft, cylinder block, cylinder head, piston, valves, alternator, blah blah blah. So all these have been replaced, and this is a major concern in the European countries where the EV transition is on a faster pace. आपल्याकडे तो अजून आलेला नाहीये, but it will come. So if the current ICE engine suppliers, since current ICE engine people, they have not transitioned to this new technology, they will wipe it out, like the Nokia and all those players which wiped out because they didn't change towards the wind side. So this is about electric vehicle, and this is it has its benefits. As I said, ICE engine has its benefits. You can fuel it immediately. Electric vehicles, still there are challenges, even with the best of the best cars. You have to charge it for 30 minutes at least. superchargers like Tesla, they have to put your, so 30 minutes is a waiting time, but in that work, fueling of petrol tank happens within this thing. Second advantage, that we have got a large network of petroleum tanks and all these things at every other nukka and chowk. You have the petrol pump, so there is a, usually don't have the range anxiety as such, but the range anxiety is electric vehicles. There you don't have the charging stations, infrastructural is not developed that with that pace. Although the government is saying that we will have 25 by 25, matlab 25 by 25 square किलोमीटर मध्ये एक तरी चार्जिंग स्टेशन असेल, अशी एक गव्हर्नमेंटने 2030 पर्यंत आपल्याकडे असेल असं गव्हर्नमेंट इज प्लेजिंग, and that is why how they are funding. So there are FAME 1, FAME 2, FAME 3 schemes. Maybe if time permits, we'll discuss about that. And the fully electrical, but the disadvantage, it has disadvantage. ICE engine, even the best of the best engine will have the efficiency factor, the 20 somewhere around 25% to 30%. So a lot of energy gets wasted. So that is this thing. But in terms of the electric vehicle, you have high efficiency. Even you consider the transmission losses and all those losses into your power electronics component, still you have got a good efficiency, somewhere around 70 to 80%. I am considering the all the losses, right from the your battery to your power electronics components to motor itself has losses. For example, motor earlier used to have somewhere efficiency around 70-60%, but the current motors that are being developed and that are being put into the electric vehicles, they are almost in the range of 95% efficiency. So efficiency factor, electric vehicles are very good. Then they don't have the emissions, zero emissions vehicle. Although let it be a very bold statement, although it is not the ZEV, that is zero emissions, because it has the earlier emissions also. Now what we are talking about zero emission, it's a tailpipe madun, whatever the emissions that are coming from the tailpipe, if there are no emissions, we call it as ZEV. But friends, it is not the case. Usually whenever you are manufacturing the components for the battery, for example, there is lithium, cobalt, manganese, all these are being extracted from the mines, and entire life cycle emissions around LCA. Hello, somebody is speaking in between. Okay, chalo. So my pace is good, na? Matlab, are you not getting? Okay. Okay. So this is about electric train. Electric power train. So you have no noise, low noise, or the regenerative braking, which we'll discuss down the line. Regenerative braking, even if you are braking, some part of it, the kinetic energy is recuperated and fed into the battery, so that the battery charges. So it gives almost 10% advantage from the battery charging point of view. It has disadvantage, and that is the reason why currently the sales are not picking up. In fact, in India, the sales were on a high. Now currently it is on the little bit lower side, because the government has also withdrawn its FAME 2 subsidy. So this is about the electric train, and your ICE engine train. Then is a hybrid power train. I just got across your subject. So it is a talking about your subject itself was some relevance into the for the hybrid. So hybrid is something which is the combination of ICE vehicles and electric vehicles. So it has some advantages of the ICE vehicles and some advantages of the electric vehicles. So you are matching those advantages and coming up with the hybrid model. Now, in fact, in India, country like India, hybrid is taking over EV. So last month, hybrid car sale was higher than electric vehicle sales. There are different reasons. People are not only talking in terms of the climate change, but they are also thinking in terms of the economy. Although there is a very strong debate that is happening whether the government should, and the companies like the Toyota, which are basically Japanese companies, they are putting a lot of efforts and a lot of lobbying for giving the subsidies for the hybrid, as they are saying currently in current scenario, which in some way or other it is a correct, that in current scenario where India is producing its energy from coal on one side, and on other side, if you are saying that BEV, the battery electric vehicle is the as of now it is the best solution. They are saying no, it is not best solution, because until and unless you produce energy from the renewable sources, it won't help. And that is correct on one part. And they also want that subsidy, but that is the eyewash, I would say, that hybrid vehicles should not be given this subsidy. That is the lobbying done by companies like in Tata Motors, companies like Mahindra. For example, Tata Motors has invested huge amount. We have invested almost 20,000 crores so far in this electric vehicle. We have purchased, if you who are relevant to the industry, we have purchased Ford company in the Chennai for the electric vehicle production only, and we are targeting almost 10 different 10 models. Already 5 models have been launched. Now the only electric models are going to be launched in the recent times, which will take care of the customer needs, that they want something different. So like for example, the models currently given by the Tata, or for the sake Mahindra, they are generation 1, generation 2 models, because they have accommodated the current model. For example, Nexon है, Tiago है, उसी में ही बैटरी लगाने का और वो देने का. So that is world 1 and 2. But now next generation 3 electric vehicles will be absolutely based on the electric vehicle architecture. In that the material will be different. You won't be using steel as a material. You will be using aluminum as a material, because you want more range. The target range for the next brand of vehicles or generation 3 vehicles is almost 500 plus. So currently we are struggling somewhere between 300 400, which again is not a real world mileage, but go down the line that will happen. And but in between, what the advocates of the green energy transition say, till you develop entirely into the BEV, because BEV is again not a cup of tea. You also have to look at the raw material. We will try to complete that raw material consideration in this. But for your this thing, there are two series hybrid powertrain and parallel hybrid powertrain. These are the two models of hybrid powertrain, where you have the engine, generator, and battery in a series, and in power parallel they can be operated standalone. And now, why this need for the hybridization is coming, is something, hybridization or EV is coming. Now, if you see, there is a good amount of CO2 reduction in every area. So if you may have heard the indexes like BS1, BS2, BS4, BS5, this all talks that the CO2 emissions must come down. And currently, believe me, all the models that had come out, in fact, Indian government was so stringent 1 or 2 years back, that come what you should be doing BS6. And for the BS6, there was massive investment that company had to do, but government didn't buckle. They said nothing doing, you should. So many of the companies had directly jumped. Rather, all the companies in India directly jumped on BS4 to BS6. BS5 was not there; it directly jumped to BS6. And many of the companies has to give away their diesel models. For example, the company like Maruti, they are not producing the diesel models anymore, because converting those diesel models into the BX is a big R&D exercise, as well as it is a costly affair, because that amount which you are consuming on the R&D, research and development, again you have to pass it on the customer, and whether your customer is ready to buy the diesel engine with so much cost is something the question. We at Tata Motors have some big models still retained for the BS6, but BS6 itself gives a good air quality. Now the governments are so stringent. For example, country in the Europe, they want the CO2 emissions to the level of 50 grams, uh, which is impossible. And in fact, they are making it impossible, because they want the automobile companies to go and invest in the electric vehicle technology. So in the year 2000, if you go by the CAFE standards, or corporate average fuel economy standards, so that dictates that your carbon CO2 emissions should be this by this by this year. So this mandates that we should have either hybrid electric vehicles or the battery electric vehicle. Hybrid electric will also give you the CO2 emissions up to 70 grams per kilometer. But beyond, if you want, and if that is the aim of certain governments, in the particular in the European countries, and that norm will come to us in 2-3 years, where the different government, because considering the pollution and the deaths related with the pollution, it will be mandatory that 50 or 60 grams per kilometer is the target will be given. And in that scenario, many companies have to leave their current ICE engine business and they have to plunge into the EV business. So this is all about this hybrid. Now, just a small comparison here. There are different types of the hybrids also. There is a mild hybrid, for example. You have to simply the mild hybrid which is battery, it says a very small size battery up to 0.5 kWh, and so relative fuel consumptions of that hybrid is mild hybrid is, if ICE engine is the reference, if I am taking ICE engine as a 100%, mild hybrid is more on the ICE engine and very small part of it will be EV. What purpose EV it will be utilized? Maybe the start functions. Whenever you are on a signal, simply start stop by the EV, and when you start with the ICE engine. So these are the basically the evolutions with respect to hybrid vehicles, as how much content of hybridization in your car. Mild hybrid, it will have a very small content, it will have a 0.5 kWh of battery. Full hybrid, where currently many models are coming to the market, it will have 1.5 kWh of battery, and also it will regenerate the braking power is regenerated. So that's the consumption height will be 75% consumption, it will be less consumption. And plug-in hybrid is the one where you plug in your charging cable to the our AC socket, and there the battery size is again more. It is almost 10 kilowatt hour, and where you get the efficiency of fuel efficiency as compared to the original ICE engine is at 25 to 50%. And ultimately, before BEV, there are some concept like BEV with a range exchanger. The range exchanger में क्या है? Range exchanger, you will have almost battery size more than 20 kilowatt hour. It is the range extender. Range को extend करता है. So that is the name. And आपका engine size becomes very small in that case. So if you go see the this chart, engine size, ICE engine size has come down to 25 kilowatt, and the battery size has gone up. Here you get the fuel consumption efficiency in a great level. So 10%, you will very small application you will be using ICE engines, and that will give a fuel consumption 10%. Now is the ultimate where you will have a zero fuel consumption as compared to the ICE engine. That is called as the BEV, where you don't have the ICE power as such, and this thing ICE power, and only you have a battery powered vehicle. So this is basically summary as to when you have to go to the different types of the hybrids. So strict fuel consumption standard है, mild hybrid को जाइए. Incentives है, demand of the low fuel consumption, fuel hybrid, ultra low fuel cost consumption, electric drive low cost. So these are the summarized intents that based on the hybridization, there are categories, there are customers. Some customers जिसको सिर्फ subsidy में interest है, he will take for the full hybrid, which is hardly a 1.5 kilowatt hour, which is current trend, whichever the Maruti and all these are selling. These are the full hybrid, but having a very low capacity of battery, which will not serve the purpose of real tail and pipe emissions. And these people are crying for all those subsidies, and but government, of course, has a different stand. Another electric vehicle is the fuel cell electric vehicle. It is basically treated as one of the very good source of electricity. It is a hydrogen based fuel cell, because even if we consider the battery vehicle as the ZEV, zero emission vehicle, it has a very large number of pollutions which is happening during battery production, lithium ion extraction. So if you consider the lithium ion extraction, usually it is lithium is being extracted through brines. So जमिनीतील पाणी जे क्षारयुक्त किंवा याचे पाणी असतं लिथियमचं, They get extracted. It has to be stored on the large ponds, then it evaporates for some days, and then you get some lithium solution from that, and then it is a highly energy intensive process. Plus there are documentaries currently that lithium जिथून extract करता है तिथं already the water scarcity has already started. So there it has not only has the cost challenges, but it has also a environmental challenges. For take a example of the cobalt, which is the cathode material, and it is very costly, and it is produced in the Republic of Congo, which is very poor country. Day before yesterday also, I was just viewing that one lady, actress who roams around the world, and so she was in that Cuba country, where small kids are going in deep inside the mines and extracting the cobalt. So the conditions are very harsh, very poverty driven, very corruption driven country. So people are want to shift this side, the life cycle emissions. So the same is the case with the nickel. Nickel is being produced in the country like Indonesia, Russia, where there is a wide amount of natural deterioration that is happening, and the people want that we should have some sustainable solution where the hydrogen fuel cell comes in the picture. Basically, hydrogen is abundant in the nature, and it is zero emissions during the process as well as during your life cycle. It has certain disadvantages because hydrogen is being produced through the electrolysis process, and currently the cost of electrolyzers and all those cathode anode materials is on a higher side. The government, for example, Indian government has approved the plan, and they want hydrogen. For example, country like India, rather than lithium based batteries, we should be going for hydrogen based. So company like Tata Motors, we have our own hydrogen R&D centers where we have recently made buses from hydrogen, and has been handed over to government for the trial and purpose. So hydrogen is something which will come in a big way, considering the incentives and the users adaptability. In near future, the government has made a national green hydrogen mission where they are attempting to produce at least 5 million metric ton of green hydrogen. Again, there are the different hydrogen. Green hydrogen is something where the energy required for the electricity is taken from the renewable energy. So there is a blue hydrogen, there is a gray hydrogen. Gray hydrogen means you are taking the energy from the fossil-based fuel. So we will not go into the detail of hydrogen. But remember that hydrogen fuel cell is one technology which is coming in a big way. A lot of companies, specifically recent announcement by Mr. Nitin Gadkari, indicates that for a country like India, we have the hydrogen as a fuel of the future. Although many of you must have heard that we have recently got some lithium reserves in the state of Jammu and Kashmir. But usually this is in the G1 stage. So even for that reserves there are 2-3 stages, G1, G2, G3. G1 म्हणजे मिळालं आपल्याला, त्याच्यात खोदलं तर काहीच मिळालं नाही असं होऊ शकतं. So that may be the probability. So G2 and G3 stages are yet to be explored. So maybe last month those blocks which were found, Raisoni or which district is there, where those blocks were given to the private players so that extraction can happen. But it's a very long process. It may take 8 to 10 years to really get the benefit of all those lithium, and by that time we'll have to depend on China. China currently controls the entire supply chain, be it lithium, cobalt. Maybe down the line, if you come across, we'll show the all those charts. This is a big presentation. I will limit our discussion on small topics. Another important aspect is regeneration is something which is very helpful for the electric vehicles, which regenerates the energy which or otherwise gets lost into the braking. The kinetic energy which is produced by the wheels gets lost in the friction between your tire and the road surface, but it is captured in the electric vehicles. So the motor which is which has the overall same physical aspect, it works as a generator during this braking process and supplies back. So this is a generating concept. So as I said, the we have almost 10% of the generative capacity, regenerative capacity. So as per the battery capacity, as per the vehicle weight and all those dynamics, you will get almost 10 to 15% of the energy during this process. So this is all about electric vehicles, difference between electric hybrid and ICE engine. Then we have discussed about series, parallel, and then when people are transiting from mild, series, PHEV, hybrid with a range extender and all those, the battery electric vehicle. So far so good. Now just we'll for your information, we'll just have the look at the global EV outlook, where the world. I'm skipping some videos because I think I am continuously watching the clock and this is a tickling. But this is the graph where you can see the growth of electric vehicles. So electric vehicle sales keep rising and could reach around 17 million. That is the extent of growth that has been this thing, and large portion of it is China. So the orange portion is a China. This is a Q1 2024, although it is little bit down, but you see the 23, it is rising, and most of the percentage, so almost 60% of cars are being produced, being sold in the China is on a very huge market. This is a global adoption trend. How much percentage of the BEVs are there? How much percent of the PHEVs are there? BEV means battery electric vehicle and plug-in hybrid electric vehicle. These are the two prominently electric vehicles that are being into the frame. So BEV percentage is high. Electric cars almost went up to the 40 million, and as I said, is 90% of which were in China. Electric cars, BEV, I am talking about. So most of this percentage are in the countries like China, Europe, and United States. Countries like India, for example, I think our our country like India has the this is the India. This India country like India has very small percentage of their fleet. I think currently we are somewhere around 1% or 2%. We are talking about the passenger cars. In India, we have a good market for the two-wheelers and three-wheelers. For example, three-wheelers, we have a very good market because three-wheeler is all about economy. There is a good subsidies given by the government. This is a e-two-wheeler and three-wheeler global sales. So if you can see in this e-two-wheeler, three-wheeler, India is a quite a remarkable one. The countries like Vietnam, जो poor countries है ना, वहाँ पे two-wheeler और three-wheeler ज़्यादा चलता है. So three-wheeler, for example, in three-wheeler there are good market players, and in India the percentage of penetration is very good in the three-wheelers. For example, it has reached in some small segment. काय असतं टूर असते ना, त्याच्यामध्ये जवळजवळ reached up to the 40%. So why? Because good economy is there. ह्या गाड्यांची रनिंग कॉस्ट, because these are being used for the small commercial purposes, and the running cost of the electric vehicle is very small. If you consider a car, for example, the running cost of the electric car is almost in the range of 1 rupees per car, considering the rates of the electricity. But in case of the ICE, it goes up to 6 to 7, 8 kilometers depending on the engine size and all. But electrical three-wheelers, they are very popular, and very popular in the northern side. So maybe 1 year back, to be precisely, in the last January, I had been to the Delhi side, Pantnagar, which we have one plant there. So there were so many three-wheelers, electric three-wheelers, and any brand, like they were having a brand like Chetan, Shahenshah. So it is very easy for them to produce all those brands. They just have to import battery and small battery and motor from the local Chinese supplier. Then you have the frame here and go ask for the subsidy. But one good part, just I was wondering and just asked that fellow colleague in my company, why there is such a big craze over here. So they said, apart from the benefit that acquisition cost, which we call as when you get the car or that three-wheeler, acquisition cost is very less as compared to the ICE engine because you have the subsidies. Second, your running cost is very negligible because the states like Bihar, UP, that Uttarakhand, they are very indisciplined people. Indisciplined मतलब तो म्हटला की ते जे वीज असते ना जी इलेक्ट्रिसिटी ती आता मला आय एम नॉट एबल टू कन्वर्ट द एक्झॅक्ट सेंटेन्स इनटू द इंग्लिश पण ते तारा टाकून वीज घेतात म्हणजे त्या आकडा टाकून ते वीज घेतात आणि दे डोंट हॅव द कॉस्ट ऑफ इलेक्ट्रिसिटी सो यू डोंट हॅव द फ्युएल कॉस्ट so your running cost is as negligible. That is why it is a very good affair for them. So e-two-wheelers, three-wheelers is a good market. In e-two-wheelers, earlier used to be Ola. Last month, Ola share in the e-two-wheeler market dropped drastically. They are currently at the 22%. Once upon a time, they were somewhere around 50%. But the legacy players like Bajaj, TVS, they have started into the electrical two-wheelers and three-wheelers. This is some comparison of the total cost of ownership म्हणजे तुमची कॉस्ट ऑफ ॲक्विजिशन तुम्ही गाडी घेतानाची कॉस्ट आणि त्यानंतर रनिंगची कॉस्ट हे जर केलं तर तुमची टोटल कॉस्ट ऑफ ॲक्विजिशन कशी होईल काय होईल सो दिस इज ओव्हरऑल पिक्चर नाऊ ॲज आय सेड की China is ruling in this entire game, in the entire game of material, in the entire game of vehicle producing, in sale inside the company, exporting. So here is a small picture of three. I have divided it into three different areas. So battery sale, for example, if you see on this graph, majority of the battery sales are getting produced in the China. There is a company called as a BYD. I don't know whether you are aware. BYD. There is a company called Cattle, which is BYD is sponsored by our Warren Buffett. And the majority of the battery cells are being produced in the China. Majority of the EV production happens in the China. Majority of the production EV get registered in the China. And parallelly, the Chinese teams also send their cars, battery cells. For example, currently India imports almost all the cells. For example, Tata Motors, we import. Of course, we have the certain plans for the localization of these batteries, and we have already started investing a lot of money into the battery making itself. So we have our own companies which are making the battery. This is the battery price comparison. Battery prices are coming down because there are lot of extraction, lithium, maybe cobalt and manganese. This is happening. Additionally, there are different chemistries that are coming. So I don't know whether we have time. So we will be discussing about the chemistries of the batteries also. So chemistry, currently there are 2-3 chemistries which are predominant. Earlier it was a NMC chemistry. You are nickel, manganese, and cobalt chemistry, which is very popular, particularly in the US. But during the Chinese intervention, and the reason again that we should not have the these materials like cobalt, which is not environment friendly thing, we should replace it by some other material. So LFP is the lithium iron phosphate chemistry has coming. Now lithium iron phosphate is a little bit less energy dense. So it is somewhere around 160 and the NMC is somewhere around 250. So it is less energy dense, but considering the current R&D that Cattle, BYD is doing, the energy density of these LFP is also increasing, and the current percentage of the lithium, I don't know whether the graph is here or not, but the current lithium percentage so if you see the LFP is increasing on a very large. So in China, if you say LFP, the one which is been shown in the green, the percentage of LFP batteries is very increasing. Almost 65 to 70% of the batteries are LFP based batteries. They don't have that nickel and cobalt based batteries. These are the chemistries that are evolving, and people are going from a non-environment friendly chemistries towards the environment friendly chemistries. This is the global sales. BYD build your dreams, aisa kuch to hai naam, build your dreams, correct. So this BYD company which is formed itself, it is a very magical story of the BYD. If you come across some YouTube, just go and just see the story of the BYD. This company, usually for the company, automobile companies, it takes years, not it takes 100 years to establish themselves into the car market. But this particular company which is just selling hardly some sales now it is a conglomerate, and it is like and they have the vertical supply chain. So company like Tata Motor will making the cars in their premises, but will take battery from the supplier, motor from that supplier. But BYD, no, they have their battery plant, they have their motor plant, they have the mines in the Cuba, in the Argentina, in Bolivia. They have their mines. So BYD has the vertical supply chain, right from the mining up till the your car. They are vertical, and that is the reason they are topping the chart. If I am not producing, that is I am not, Tata Motor is not producing car, the sole reason is we don't have material available, even the customer demand. But I am absolutely reliant on the Chinese player for giving me the material, but not the case with the BYD. So BYD is the top player, then followed by the Tesla. Tesla again, they have the very big plant in Shanghai, Beijing, and the government has tremendously helped Tesla. And the reason also because Chinese are very aggressive. They know the politics, they know the long term. They brought the Tesla with the red carpet. They provided all the facilities to Tesla. But meanwhile, in last 10 years, they understood all the technologies from the Tesla also. So that is the reason the top companies like BYD, Wuling, Geely Auto, all these companies eventually got the knowledge transfer from the Tesla, and now they are surpassing the Tesla. So the game that Chinese wanted to play, they played. All the Tesla supplier base they used for their own companies, and now the Chinese players are self-sufficient. This is the global EV scenario. It is likely that by year 2035, China 100% their cars will be electric vehicle, because China want it, because they want a global world leader, and they have controls on all the supply chains that is on the European Union. Also very this is a accelerator phenomenon. There are two phenomena, as I said. There is accelerator phenomena and there is a net zero phenomena. नेट जीरो 90% पे है, और एक्सीलेटर मतलब बहुत ही ताकत लगा दिया तो हम लोग 100 तक जाएंगे. तो 2035 तक एटलीस्ट चाइना एंड यूरोपियन कंट्रीज आर going there, because in both these countries, if you see the past data in year 2024, year 2023, the figures indicate that they are on the track. US is a little bit lagging because their policy makers are not able to make the right decisions. So Trump बीच में आ जाता है and वो बोलता है कि we electric vehicle नहीं चाहिए. Biden government thinks otherwise. They have given a lot of subsidies recently, but then again it is a policy decisions initial period that requires a lot of help. Then again, big companies they are putting long money. Recently, few of the companies understood that without EV they can't go ahead. So companies like Toyota, Hyundai, those were little Suzuki, those were laggards in the EV, but now they understood that going ahead and considering the climate change risks, we need to be into the fray, and we can't stop behind. So they are also putting a lot of money into the business, and this is the curves adoption curve. Now to just brief what is the EV adoption, basically there are 2-3 factors: pull factor, push factor. One, we discussed that the emission norms are so much stringent that going below 50 kilometer 50 gram per kilometer, you have to go into the EV. As I said, अगर आपको 80 to 60, 80 to 70, 100 तक करना है, तो you can have the PHEVs and some EVs, but below 50, which likely to happen in the very sensitive areas where the health of the population is taken care very seriously. In our India, because we are 1.4 billion people, we usually don't care for the people. So तुमच्या नाका तोंडात धूर गेला तरी चालतोय लोकांना. But the government, which are European based governments, they usually very careful and they put a very stringent regulatory norms. Promoting policies are there. The people have, as I said, the government of China put a lot of money, billions of dollars. India, for example, take an example of India. I don't know whether here is, we have our own policies with respect to that. That India also had put a 2-3 schemes. So the first was a FAME scheme, the faster adoption and manufacturing of electric vehicles. So there almost 10,000 crores rupees were given. In initial phase, FAME 1 was declared, and in 2015, I think, and from FAME 1 and up to 2019 this FAME 1 was there, but it really didn't click, or the adoption was not that high. But FAME 2, which was 10,000 crores rupees were given for the demand side incentive. What is this demand side incentive? That अगर आपको कोई भी innovation mass scale पे आपके एरिया में करना है, तो you have to incentivize the customers. So अगर आप that is the incentive which was given to the two-wheeler people based on the KWH. For example, I'm not exactly remembering the thing, but somewhere around 5,000 per kWh was given to the two-wheeler, somewhere around 10,000 kWh per was given for a three-wheeler, and similarly it was a four-wheeler. So 10, and again some 3,000 crores were kept separately for the fast charging infrastructure development. So for example, in our company, we are thankfully why Tata Motors is having the good economy ecosystem. So we like the BYD, we also want to have our own infrastructure. So Tata Motors, for example, is producing the cars, electric cars. Tata Power is the company which is in our ecosystem, which is building a infrastructure network of fast chargers all across India. By this time, when I am talking with you, there are almost 5,000 odd fast chargers have already been put in by Tata Power. Similarly, there is one company called as a TACO, Tata Auto Components Limited, which is the company which is earlier importing all the batteries, but currently this has been manufactured in localization, because that is the rule of subsidy giving, that if you want a subsidy, you have to have the localization of your components. Only it is not a subsidy, taking subsidy is not the only goal, but the government has mandated that if you want your customer to have the subsidy, you have to make local components. And that is the reason when we started as a Tata Motors into the industry, EV industry, in year 2019, we have 100% of our electric vehicle parts, be it a battery, be it as a motor, be it as power electronics, they're all coming from the different parts of the world. So it is majority of it is coming from the China and few from the Germany, like power converters, we are getting it from the Germany. But now condition is that we have our own battery plant, only cells, which currently we don't have the technology. But we are not stopping there. We have another company, if you have heard, it is a Tata Chemicals. Tata Chemicals is already started making sales, and in near future we'll have our own sales making company. We'll have our own battery making company. Motors have already been started in another Tata company. So these are the ecosystems like BYD that Tata Motors is establishing, so that our market share, currently we are having almost 80 to 70 to 80% market share. Of course, new players are coming in, like your BYD, like your MG, but still we are having that first advantage, early advantage is still there. And so this FAME 2 has really given a push to the supply demand side. You support customers. Another is you are also giving a boost to the supplier side. So there is a PLI scheme. I don't know whether you have heard. It is a production linked incentive. So one side you are giving the benefit to the customer. On other side, the government is also pushing the companies, the suppliers, that you invest certain amount of scheme and we will incentivize you. So there are certain 8 to 10 categories of the PLI schemes, and particularly for the EV, there is the ACC, that Advanced Chemical Cell, Advanced Chemistry Cell. Sorry, almost 18,100 crores were given to produce the 50 gigawatt hour capacity. So companies like Reliance, Exide, and there are some like our Ola, they are all been auctioned for this capacity, and certain five companies have already been given a PLI incentive. So this is a government is doing on a supply side. Yes, you take this money, but make sure that you progress in EV supply base. Similarly, they are giving the customer incentive, incentives to the customers to purchase the car. Now that said this, now whether it is the only fact that we'll have to rely on the other thing, but there is government has because self reliance हम लोग आत्मनिर्भरता बोलते हैं, still it is the incomplete dream that is आत्मनिर्भर तो हम हो नहीं सकते. So how, what is the strategy? So with this respect, the Indian government has formed one company which is called as the Khanij Videsh India Limited, which is the combination of Nalco and other two companies whose job is to go in other parts of the world, like they have to go to the Argentina. There is a lithium triangle which is called as lithium triangle, which is the Argentina, Bolivia, and Chile. This is the lithium triangle, and the this company is going there and purchasing and making the agreements with the government so that त्या तिथल्या माइन्सचा ताबा आपल्याला मिळेल. So they want the mines owned, like in China they own 60% of the mines in the these areas, and that is why they are self-sufficient. Similarly, India is also doing, because India also know he relying on the Chinese imports in the EV, it won't help us in a long term. So that is the reason the government is also pushing very hard, and they are going all across the different nations to see that they have the controls over that. So this is all about what government is doing and pushing for this EVs. And so far, this is we discussed about who is leading. China is leading, European is leading, US is leading. All other countries are little bit on lower side, but the countries like India, countries like Brazil, countries like Indonesia, they have made a little bit progress, and in their national policies, they have taken EVs seriously. So the country's transport minister, Mr. Nitin Gadkari, is very, very aggressive and is saying that we will be top EV manufacturer by year 2030. A lot of subsidies now. In fact, recently we had a government announced the scheme of because FAME 2 खत्म हो गया है, FAME 2 got lapsed, and there is a small change in the sales also. There are no big sales now, but to promote it further, maybe in the last 15 days back or 1 month back, PM Electric Drive Revolution, PM E-Drive scheme has been given, which is again in between FAME 2. FAME 2 खत्म हो गया है. Now government wants FAME 3 to come, but FAME 3 they are negotiating certain terms. But in between FAME 2 and FAME 3, recently our Nirmala Sitharaman had announced PM E-Drive scheme, which is again it was the incentivization of this. So this is all about the government interventions, government policies to see that electric vehicles are nourished, see that electric vehicles should be supported till they stand on the feet. For example, in the company in the China, earlier the incentives have been removed, but still now that penetration, that benefits of electric vehicles have reached to the common man, and now common man, the companies, they don't need the incentives for purchase or supply. So that is a good model. Similar model we have to establish in India, and the efforts of the government is in toward that direction, that up to certain time we'll have to incentivize. So FAME 3 is likely to come, and after that, when there is a mass adoption, we will stop the incentives. So this is all about government initiative. Something we will discuss. There are, I think, another 15 minutes. Something we will, out of curiosity, we will discuss some of the key facts. This is the supplier base of the battery. So you can see 34% of the battery market is taken care by CATL. So CATL is basically a Chinese company. Then and the control of the China, if you see on the right side, almost 76% of the 76 percentage of the current battery production happens only in the China. Then it is in the US, then South Korea and the European Union. But 76% is a huge amount that battery production happens in the Chinese country. This is the lithium. I talked about where the lithium is. So there are triangles, lithium triangles. So it is Bolivia, Argentina. Then there is some sort of lithium, unextracted lithium reserves in the US, in Chile. These are the three countries which are called as the gold mines, and they are the top three countries. They are called as lithium triangle: Bolivia, Argentina, and Chile. Then Australia, there is a big chunk of the lithium. So there are these in Bolivia, Argentina, and Chile. You will have the brine lithium extraction. So in Australia, you will have a rock extraction. So there are two methods of the extraction: the brine extraction and the rock extraction. India recently has there is a mark, but this is still unextracted lithium, 5.9, this Jammu and Kashmir. And thankfully, if we really, these are the news coming that the Afghanistan sideचा जो सिंध प्रांत आहे तिथं हे लिथियमचे साठे आहेत. If that news is correct, then some of the part of our Rajasthan and Jammu Kashmir, some part of the Pakistan, some part of the Afghanistan will be great sources of the lithium. So this is all about lithium. This is a battery technology. I am not going to trace it because it's a very technical. That it is a cathode वरून कसे ions येतात, how the electric force from the outside there is between electrolysis. So electro membrane is there, anode, silicon membrane. It adapts the oxygen, oxidation happens. So I am not going to go to it. It's purely technical. You must be aware of all this stuff. These are the prominent chemistries, I would say. That is how the battery evolved over a period of time. It was a lead acid battery which started in the 1900 जेव्हा गाड्या बनल्या गेल्या, initial गाडीज, those were the lead acid batteries. Then in the year 1960s 70s, their nickel cadmium batteries, then lithium ion batteries. This was a revolution. The Sony company first started the lithium ion batteries in their Walkman, and the revolution of lithium then started in the year 2008. The massive adoption of the lithium ion batteries in the Tesla model by Elon Musk is the triggering point. So there are again some innovations that are happening currently in terms of the lithium. Lithium metal is again a promising technology, but cost and all other things are yet to this thing. So this is again a technical term. I will not elaborate much. Cathode, anode, and this is basically how the batteries. You increase the power. You have to put all the batteries in the series, and to get the voltage, you'll have to put in the series, and for power you have to put that parallel. Again, technical terms. I will not elaborate on that. This is the composition for the batteries. So almost cost-wise, if we consider, then 51% of the cost goes for the cathode material. Cathode materials are really costly materials because they are being extracted by some countries, and refining being done in some countries. So many attempts are being made to eliminate those costly materials. For example, I talked about the LFP chemistry. Sodium ion battery is coming out. And recently, our Reliance Industries has collaborated with one company in this regard. And this sodium ion, because sodium is such a large abundant material, but unfortunately it is low density material. But still there are certain efforts which are being made to increase the density. CATL recently had shown their capability in terms of Na sodium ion battery, which goes up to 140 density, which is nearing to the LFP. And in the near future, this will be a great help for price reduction. And there are certain, maybe in this chart, I don't know whether it is there, but there are certain dates at which the cost of the ICE engine and cost of the electric vehicle will be same. China, for example, it has already reached for certain models, and people are not taking ICE anymore. They are taking EVs. Similarly, in India, because India localization has not happened yet, we are still dependent on the imported material. So it will take time. But yes, there are times where the battery costs are dropping drastically, and it is estimated that by year 2027 आपल्याकडे सुद्धा इंडियामध्ये सुद्धा इलेक्ट्रिक गाडी आणि तुमची पेट्रोलची गाडी हे एकाच कॉस्ट मध्ये येतील. अँड देन इट इज ओनली द रनिंग कॉस्ट विच विल बी मॉनिटर्ड. अँड रनिंग कॉस्ट तर तुझ्या EV, we have very low energy cost, and the people will buy more and more of the EV. Batteries have the specific thermal management, which is a very important phenomena. They have the coolant tubes inside the batteries, which makes that battery in a very optimal temperature. So somewhere around 25 degrees to 30 degrees Celsius. So you might have heard some of the incidences earlier on, particularly with the two-wheelers, because as I said, in the two-wheeler and three-wheeler, any Tom, Dick, Harry, because of the incentive they entered into the two-wheeler market. They didn't have that R&D facility. They don't know the technical parts of it, and that is where the thermal management of the batteries collapsed, and there were many fire cases for these two-wheelers. Vis-a-vis, when we consider the players, big players like Tata, Mahindra, they have the big R&D, big thermal management system. So this is the one BMS. BMS is the module which monitors the battery health in real time. It makes the temperature, it checks the voltage, and it makes that real-time arrangement so that the refrigerated coolant can go inside the cells to make their performance, make them cool, make their temperature optimal, so that they perform always in a good condition. In higher side temperature of the battery goes, it will blast, it will have a thermal runaway. In a lower side of the battery, if in condition, so in icy conditions like Europe or that condition, going the lower side will stop. There will be very high internal resistance inside the battery, which will cause the electrons movement very small, very drastically reduced, and there are chances that your car won't start at all. So these are the extreme end cases, and that is the reason you will have to have a very good battery management system. Safety, as I said, there are certain reasons, but no worries for the good companies, because they have their own crash safety, water tightness, or even the if you dip your battery in, for example, in Tata Motors, we test that is the method of testing. We dip the battery for one in a tank and keep it for 24 hours, and they check if there is any leakages there. But these are the very highly sophisticated leakage joints for the battery, so that in fact, in the recent maybe last year, 2 years back, when there was a very big flood in the Mumbai, no case from the for the Tata Motors was reported from all these areas where they said ki there is a water intrusion, even though the cars were submerged to the almost their half of the size. So this is the all about it. This is the percentage of material in ICE engine, and this thing, as you see that in case of the ICE engine, material requirements are very minimum, very less. But in case of EV, the material requirements are very huge. That is you have graphite, copper, nickel, manganese. So you have to extract a lot of material. And as I said, when you consider the EV emissions, you cannot consider only the pollutions or the tailpipe emission. You have to consider the entire life cycle emission. Here is where the EVs come little bit on a backside, because mining these precious materials from the earth crust is a very energy sensitive process, and a lot of energy goes vested into this. This is the raw material supply chain. As I said, there is a lithium triangle for the lithium this thing. So you get lithium from that triangle and from Australia. Then you have cobalt, which is another important material. You get that in Democratic Republic of China, and then you have this nickel, which is getting produced in the Indonesia and Russia. And this is very important example where you can see that how the China has controlled the entire supply chain. So on the left side, you can see there are the different countries who are produced, where you find the material, but the processing part, it happens in China. So for example, copper is produced in different worlds, but 40% of the material is processed in China. So you have to go through China only. 35% nickel is being processed in the China. Cobalt 65% processed, refined in the China. Rare earths 87% is in China. So you can see there is a huge control of all these electric vehicle materials by the China. And even if now the US is worried about all these things, because US development of all these materials and is a not an immediate process. Even though it is estimated, this is a report by IEA recently, that even if the USA starts now very aggressively, still by 2040, still the China will be the leader in the electric vehicle market. This is again the same extraction process everywhere. The China is a dominant player. These are the videos, but time won't permit. These are the videos where how lithium is extracted, how the Congo child labor is being put. So this is the slides. As I said, the brine is put on the pumped out of the earth. It has to be evaporated. A lot of water is required for lithium. Cobalt mining very done in a very unhygienic condition. Similar is the case for the graphite and nickel condition. But yes, it is the not the bad story part of its story, but there are certain actions, decarbonization actions जिनको हम लोग बोल सकते हैं, decarbonization actions are also in pipeline in all aspects. Whatever I talk, extraction जे तिथे low carbon energy वापरली तर त्यानंतर new technology, all these are being happened. And so beyond lithium ion batteries also we discussed lithium ion batteries, yes, they are the front runners as of now, but technology with environment effects, people are thinking beyond lithium ion. Hydrogen fuel is one of the key options that has been searched on, and many large companies, for example, companies like Toyota, companies like Suzuki, even a company like Tata Motor, in bits and pieces, we are putting a lot of R&D efforts, but it will materialize soon because the carrying hydrogen, transmission of the hydrogen is as of now is not cost effective and is a little bit unsafe process. But the policy makers are very strongly determined to go beyond below that. So hydrogen fuel cell is the one. Sodium ion, we discussed sodium ion is still not in a mainframe, but the efforts are still going on because sodium is in abundance. Also, it has very small impact on the environment. So this is a one technology that is going to be there. Then another is a solid state batteries is coming very hardly. Toyota has invested a very large amount of it on a solid state battery. Basically, the electrolyte of regular liquid, like regular battery, liquid electrolyte is replaced by the solid, and this gives a good thermal stability. This is again one technology. Lithium air, lithium sulfur, these are the two technologies which are coming up very heavily. These are the some of the slides which we are already covered. Time is running out. So the EV life cycle emissions, we talked about EV life cycle. It is not the only end emissions. So battery manufacturing, vehicle manufacturing, electricity production, all these contributes to the life cycle emission. But even with that comparison also, the electric vehicle stands apart. So these are the slide which will take 10 minutes for the explanation. But please understand that if you have the good running of your car, then EV are still a good solution. Even in the initial stage, these are red dots you can see, the battery production. It is a high consumption of energy is in the battery production, but it is getting offset if you are running your car on a continuous basis. This is the again a graphical representation. This is called as the cradle to grave. Cradle मतलब पाळणा, पाळणा grave, grave म्हणजे तुमचं काय ते थडग. So cradle to grave emissions consider केले पाहिजेत. That is some environment state. This is correct. And as I said, 60% of the emissions, 45% of the emissions are happening in the battery production, and 10% happens in ICE vehicles where you extract the crude oil. So from that perspective, these are some of the examples which we this thing. So as this also we explained, Tata Motors, we have our own ecosystem that is developing. Tata Power for charging, Tata Comfort for battery, and we will be producing all these things in-house by another 2-3 years. So this is all about our story. So I think there are many technical things, but we are running short of time, and this is it. From my side, it is 4:56, and with this I end up this session. If any queries, I will how to address those queries. There is a lot of technical material is there, but there are smart charging options, V2G technology is there. So if you have seen our recent cars, so earlier we have V2G. In European countries, this is becoming a model for earning money for the EV person. That when batteries are idle, then these batteries can give supply to the electricity board during the peak hours and earn the income. So this is the vehicle to grid technology. So in recent V2V technology is there, vehicle to vehicle technology. In recent cars that we are selling, you can have your equipment connected to our car. So if you want a coffee, if you want to have some small snacks to be made, then you can connect your equipment to our battery, and battery will convert all those DC AC, and you will get the supply. So these are the various techniques. One aspect is which I will cover in only 2-3 minutes is the recycling. So many people are now thinking ki after 8 years what will happen to my battery, and all this will of course these are the challenges as of now. That resale value is as of now is not that lucrative. But what happens to this battery is of course a model that is getting evolved. So after your initial battery use, for example, Tata Motors gives 8 years of warranty. After 8 years, your battery won't be useful. Maybe useful. Huh? I'm not saying it may not be useful. Take an example that you extend that use for the 10 years. Now at 10 years, it may not be useful, or it may not be luxurious enough for you to drive the EV, but it may be useful for some applications. So its capacity is reduced by 80%, for example, and now you are no more enjoying your ride. So that battery, even though it is not useful for you as a EV driver, it is useful for certain applications. Where this application currently, renewable energy is going like anything. Renewable energy is a very volatile energy. You cannot directly, because wind aata hai kabhi, sunrise sun aata hai. So this is a variable energy, and when they are getting produced, it should be stored. So battery serves as the the storage mechanism. So companies like Tesla, they have their own plans to produce the batteries for the storage application. So these used batteries will be used in the storage application. In the this is very on a conceptual side in the India, but the European countries where the EV market is matured, they are using this for the wind energy storage. They are using this for the lift backup. They are using this in solar energy storages, and a lot of use are happening. Beyond that, if you use this for the solar, so secondary, this is called as secondary storage. So beyond secondary storage, then there are the recycling that happens. So because these materials, which are very precious material, and if you are throwing these materials, it won't be a good exercise. And so the recycling is the coming up. There are many good companies which are recycling. In fact, the Tata Motors is setting up a recycling plant for these batteries, where 95% of this material will be recycled and will be given back to the battery supplying plant. So it is not that everything is lost. So there is a repurpose, and this is called as a circular economy. Earlier economy is linear economy. Linear mein kya hai? You take the material, use the material, and throw the garbage. But in circular economy, because this is the need of the hour, and you have seen that it is one of the key pillar for the our energy transition. This is a you have to use that material back and forth, so that new material requirement will be lesser and lesser. So this is all about circular economy. Future EV technologies, ADAS, already the ADAS vehicles have started coming, level 1, 2, 3, 4 ADAS. Share mobility is something which will pick up very largely, because before yesterday, I was reading one article for 2035, because the people are now very worried about the traffic pollution. So the countries like Germany, countries like UK, they have started developing cycling paths, pedestrian paths. So the day before yesterday, I was just roaming around this news. The Japan has produced one station where you have when you are walk on that particular road, electricity is produced, because you are walking. There are some cylinders or pistons. I don't know what was there, but your movement will this thing. There is some road in the Norway which is being produced, where you drive the vehicles and wireless charging happens. The road will have the copper coils. Your vehicle will have the copper coils, and through induction, your car will get automatically charged. So these are the future technologies. V2X, V2I, V2.1. This will be there, and these new technologies will surely make these EVs more futuristic. And with the government support, and the way the pollution and all are increasing, and it is a need for good nations like India to rise to the occasion, and see that the electrical vehicles are becoming mainstream. There is a lot of skill development. Again, there is a separate discussion chapter on the skill development. There is a lot of need for the skills in the EV domain. The companies like Tata Motors, they are giving the MTech programs for the employees to see that the skill gap is nourished. Then there are certain programs which our companies collaborating with, so that स्किल इंडिया करके एक इनिशिएटिव है गवर्नमेंट का, उसमें वी आवर पीपल आर एंगेजिंग विद द dealers and all these lower grade operators to whom the training is given. So there is a large amount of periscope evolving around this, and in a near days the EV will be future, and going by current trend we will see a greener, much better world, which will be a environment friendly world. So with this I stop here, and thank you for your patience hearing. And if at all there are some questions, we will spend some 5 to minutes, and then we will wrap up. Although it was a very hurried lecture, because the content is very high, I took the surface level approach to explain you the things, but hope this has enriched your knowledge in terms of what is happening around the world in terms of the EV, and it will surely help you to understand the mobility per view. Okay, with this I end my session. Thank you.